Thank you so much, Duduzile. Indeed, Cosatu is a key member of the alliance, and they would be critical then to hearing what the president has in terms of labor, amongst other issues. A very good afternoon to you, Mr. Parks. The president has a tough task ahead of him today. The optimism in the country is low. There have been several retrenchments. The burning of parliament has also meant that they've had to bring this event to this venue, and has changed the way in which things are done. And it cannot be lost on me, Mr. Parks, that as we stand here, and we'll try and see if my colleague Senzo Ngcobo can't show you, that there's actually a group that's congregated here in protest, and authorities are on standby. It seems like they're trying to split up this crowd just here. This is an indication, Mr. Parks, of the levels of human suffering and despair in South Africa.
Look, I mean, people are demoralized. The economy is in its deepest recession in 100 years. We have an unemployment rate of 46%. 2.2 million workers have lost their jobs in the past 2 years. Millions of workers are highly indebted. So really, there is a mood of despair. And we hope the president will help to address that, give a sense of what government has been able to do over the past year, but more critically, what are we going to do going forward to deal with unemployment, to deal with the economy in stagnation. With Eskom, we have load shedding. Electricity is becoming increasingly unaffordable and unreliable. Metro rail has been destroyed to the point of collapse in many parts of our cities. We have Transnet hanging by a thread, which is critical to the mining, to the manufacturing, to the agricultural sectors, to jobs. We have a state which is riddled with corruption, with wasteful expenditure. So we need to see what is the president going to say to address those crises, to give a sense of hope to the country, to workers, to the unemployed. So there's a huge amount of expectations. We hope he will rise to the occasion and give a real sense of a government that's going to address these ticking time bombs.
I mean, of course, you would be interested in the debates and discussions around the basic income grant. All indications are that in some shape, way or form, this is going to become a reality. Often the unions are criticized for making, unsubstantiated or unrealistic demands. Which way would you want to hear the president presenting, this social relief that is desperately needed by our society?
Look, the point is we have 10 million people who are currently receiving the 350 grant. We have about 14 million people who are unemployed. We simply cannot afford as a nation to leave anybody without any source of income. Yes, we must create jobs, but that will take some time. In the meantime, let's give solidarity, let's give relief and protection to the unemployed. We think as Cosatu, and we've been engaging with the president, with government, let's extend the 350 SRD grant. Let's see how can we increase it to the food poverty line of 624 rand. But it must be extended. Let's then see how can we improve it. But in essence, it's a foundation to a basic income grant. But as we saw last year with the violence in KZN and Gauteng, we cannot afford to leave anybody behind as a society. We have enough resources. We think it is affordable in the fiscus. It costs about 40 billion rand in a budget of about 1.8 trillion rand. But we simply cannot afford as a nation to leave a quarter of society behind without any source of income or hope or opportunities.
You know, you spend a lot of time in Parliament, and it's interesting that and apt that you've mentioned, the July unrest in parts of KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng, because that report by the high-level panel set up by the President has found that factionalism within the ANC are really putting the security of the state at risk. Now, part of that includes an executive that is not working coherently together, and as an alliance partner now, I want you to talk about what issues need to be dealt with so that the State of the Nation address that the President gives today is not just lip service, but we'll see an executive that's working together to implement the economic recovery plan, the security cluster, and all aspects of the state to ensure that citizens are moving towards the same vision.
Sure. Look, what we're seeing right now in society, in the economy, in government, in the SOEs, in municipalities, is the consequence of a decade of state capture. As you're saying, the factionalism of the ANC is at the heart of it. The ANC itself has been battling the same issues. We've raised it as Cosatu with the ANC at the ANC Lekgotla a few weeks ago sharply. It's do or die. The ANC has to clean up. It has to deal with the demons of corruption inside it. It must purge those elements who are criminals. Otherwise it won't survive. Workers love the ANC, but they're losing patience. They're irritated by the factionalism and the chaos and the corruption deep inside the ANC. We think the President is committed in that fight, but we cannot just rely upon commitments. We've had the Zondo Commission, we've had the Commission of Inquiry into the Violence. There are clear recommendations. We need to see those who have been guilty of the violence, of the corruption, being arrested, going to court, going to prison, the assets being attached. We are almost a year from the violence. We have not seen one single person sitting in prison because of the violence, which cost 50 billion rand to the economy last year, which cost thousands of jobs. We've seen very clear reports in the Zondo Commission. We'd love to see people now going to prison. Government cannot afford to dilly-dally. We do appreciate the President cannot be the one who arrests people, but the leadership of the National Prosecuting Authority, of the police service, must come to the party. If they need resources, they must say so, but we need to see people in orange overalls spending their time in prison.
Certainly, and also being able to get some money on a fiscal envelope that's already tightened. Duduzile, I tell you what, during my conversation with Matthew Parks, I mentioned earlier that police have formed a human shield around dozens of people who've come here to the City Hall at the Grand Parade, where it seems that they're here to demonstrate for one issue or the other. But from the corner of both my eyes, I've seen my colleague Malungelo Boy and Tim Tongana readying themselves to also give you that aspect. But you can see authorities are on standby, and my colleague Senzo will show you then that human shield that's been formed by the police, and they've surrounded this group. It's unclear whether or not they'll be able to disperse this group, but evidently, judging by how swiftly there's been movement to surround this group, that this was not a planned demonstration on the part of the security apparatus, and it seems that they're trying to clear them from this particular area before that important State of the Nation address this evening.